welcome to my channel. Today we will see the complete story of the World Wars. 100 years ago, a young man stood on the deck of a ship sailing to America. He left behind a Europe poised on the brink of war. And though he dreamed of a better life in the New World, the past 3 decades would show him 2 of the deadliest conflicts in history. From the muddy trenches of the First World War to the mushroom clouds over Japan, the world was changed forever. This is the complete story of the World Wars. Part 1. World War I, the Great War. Europe in the early 20th century was a powder keg ready to explode. National rivalries, secret alliances, and imperial ambitions were tangled webs that connected the great powers of Europe. Then in Sarajevo, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian Empire, met his demise when he was assassinated by Gavrilo Princip, a Serbian nationalist. His death would trigger a diplomatic crisis that quickly escalated into a continent-wide war. The Austrians saw this as their chance to crush Serbia and its growing influence in the Balkans. So within weeks, they declared war, supported by their allies, including Germany. As the French and British watched, a German army of 1.3 million troops poured into Belgium, racing toward Paris, but the Belgian king refused to bend. Even though his small army was no match for the Germans, they held out for 4 days, which gave the British time to send reinforcements. Though outnumbered, the British and French forced the Germans to a halt. Over the next 4 years, the Western Front became a stalemate, resulting in trench warfare. Trenches. Imagine walking into a wet, muddy ditch and having nowhere to go. Smells like waste, stale urine, rotting flesh, and decay permeate the air. Imagine the crushing weight of tens of thousands of men packed together. Rats are everywhere. Add to that the constant fear of being blown apart by artillery. No wonder only 6% of those who entered the trenches came out unscathed. The front line was a narrow strip of land where 2 armies faced each other. Soldiers spent most of their time in no man's land, an area between the front lines controlled by nobody. Since there was nowhere to hide, the soldiers could do nothing but wait and hope that they would survive the day. This was the harsh reality of trench warfare during World War I. Machine guns guarded the trenches. For those who made it past them, barbed wire fences and artillery fire awaited. The only way to cross no man's land was under heavy fire. Officers knew that most men sent out into no man's land would never return. Still, somebody had to bring messages or pick up wounded soldiers. A soldier's life expectancy was only 28 years old. New weapons of war. During World War I, new weapons like machine guns, poison gas, and tanks changed the nature of warfare. Machine guns could fire hundreds of bullets a minute. A single gunner could hold off an entire platoon. Poison gas came next. Chlorine and phosgene were the most common gases used. Mustard gas was the worst because it burned through skin, clothing, and even metal helmets. The victims' lungs filled with fluid and they suffocated. Tanks first appeared in September 1916. At first there were problems. They broke down often and sometimes ran out of ammunition. However, by the end of the war, tanks were effective weapons. The British Mark IV tank had a crew of 8, a machine gun, and could reach speeds of 4 miles per hour. Global war. World War I wasn't just a European war. The British Empire mobilized 90% of its colonial population to fight. Colonial soldiers served in various theaters, including Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. More than 2 million non-Europeans fought in the war. The campaign in German East Africa pitted British and Belgian forces against the Germans. By the end of the war, 75,000 Germans and 200,000 Africans had died. Arabs also fought alongside the British and French against the Ottomans. Their goal was to establish independence and self-rule. But after the war, the promises were broken. The Indian Army played a vital role in the war effort. An estimated 1.5 million Indians enlisted in the British Indian Army. They fought in Mesopotamia, Palestine, East Africa, and France. End of the Great War. On November 11, 1918, at 11 am, Germany signed the Armistice of November, ending the war. Germany had lost more than 2 million soldiers. The economy was in sharp decline. Food shortages and inflation crippled daily life. To end the stalemate, the victorious powers gathered at the Palace of Versailles to negotiate the terms. They were determined to make Germany pay. The Treaty of Versailles forced Germany to disarm, return Alsace-Lorraine to France, and pay reparations for the damage caused by the war. It also established the League of Nations, an international organization intended to prevent future wars. Many Germans felt humiliated and angry over the treaty. The harsh penalties imposed on Germany led to resentment, which contributed to the rise of extremism and the start of World War II. Part 2. World War II, the deadliest war. After the chaos of World War I, Europe was desperate for stability. However, the peace treaty had plunged Germany into turmoil. There were social, economic, and political issues that needed to be resolved. Enter Adolf Hitler, the charismatic leader of the National Socialist German Workers' Party, otherwise known as the Nazis. With promises to restore Germany's greatness, Hitler won the support of the people and became chancellor in 1933. Meanwhile, Italy and Japan were also experiencing difficulties after World War I. Benito Mussolini capitalized on Italy's post-war struggles, promising to make Italy great again. He established a fascist dictatorship and launched campaigns to conquer Ethiopia and Albania. In Japan, military leaders seized power and began a policy of expansionism. They sought to create a new order in Asia and the Pacific dominated by Japan. Outbreak of World War II. In 1939, after remilitarizing the Rhineland, annexing Austria, and taking control of Czechoslovakia, Hitler set his sights on Poland. On September 1, 1939, German troops crossed into Poland. 2 days later, Britain and France declared war on Germany, marking the beginning of World War II. Germany's strategy was blitzkrieg, meaning lightning war. It involved fast-moving armored divisions that quickly penetrated enemy defenses. By May 1940, France had fallen and Western Europe was under Nazi control. The only thing that stopped the Germans was the English Channel. A world at war. World War II became a global conflict involving most of the world's nations. In June 1941, the Germans broke their non-aggression pact with the Soviet Union and invaded. The vastness of the Soviet Union meant that the Germans had a long way to go. Battles such as Stalingrad showed the Soviet strength. The war in the Pacific began with the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. On December 7, 1941, the Japanese Navy attacked the U.S. naval base in Hawaii. The next day, the United States declared war on Japan. The Americans joined the British in a fight to recapture Southeast Asia and the Pacific Islands. Across the world, the war raged in Africa with battles in the Western Desert. The British and Germans fought bitterly for control of Egypt and its oil fields. Rommel's Afrika Korps eventually retreated into Tunisia, where they surrendered in May 1943, turning points of the war. The tide of the war began to turn in 1942. At Stalingrad, German forces were surrounded and defeated. The Battle of Midway in the Pacific was a turning point, too. The Japanese fleet was decimated, setting the stage for the island-hopping campaign. In 1944, the D-Day invasion took place. Allied troops landed in Normandy, France. After 5 months of fighting, Paris was liberated on August 1944. The war in Europe was coming to an end. The Holocaust. While the war was raging, a sinister event was unfolding in Europe. Under the direction of Adolf Hitler, the Nazi regime systematically murdered millions of Jews and other undesirables, including homosexuals, disabled people, and political enemies. It was called the Holocaust. Jews were taken to concentration camps where they were forced into hard labor, tortured, and murdered. Men, women, and children were placed in gas chambers and killed. The victims were told lies about showers, but instead found themselves in rooms filled with deadly gas. Others were shot, hanged, or worked to death. The war ends. In 1945, the war in Europe came to an end. Hitler had taken his own life, and Germany had surrendered. The United States dropped 2 atomic bombs on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. On September 2nd, Japan surrendered aboard the USS Missouri. World War II was over. More than 85 million people had lost their lives. The war had been the deadliest in human history. It had started in Europe, but ended with the threat of a nuclear apocalypse. Part 3. Legacy. The aftermath of the 2 world wars left a profound impact on the world. It reshaped the global order, leading to the creation of the United Nations and ushering in the Cold War era. The wars claimed over 80 million lives, leaving a legacy of immense loss and suffering. Yet amidst the devastation, humanity's resilience shone through. People rebuilt their lives and communities, determined to create a better future. The memory of the fallen continues to inspire generations to strive for peace and understanding. Thank you for watching. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Till next video. Enjoy your time with History Revealed channel.